across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. Get stuck in, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, May the 7th. Here's what's coming up. It's possible that the white papal smoke may be seen in Rome tonight and a new pope will be anointed. No word yet on who that may be, but already I can reveal that it looks like I'm out of the running. Obviously, I'm devastated. Seriously, I'll bring you that important story the moment it happens, if it happens. Because if black smoke emerges, it means they haven't come to a decision. This can sometimes go on for days. God knows what they get up to behind those closed doors. I'm not sure I want to know. But here in Britain, is this lousy Labour government gearing up for another Southport-style cover-up? Why won't they tell us if the Iranian terror suspects arrested over the weekend were asylum seekers or illegal migrants? Did they cross the channel on small boats? Just like after the Southport murders, Kia's crew are insisting this is legally sensitive information that could prejudice the detainees' trials. What trials? They haven't even been charged. After he lied to keep the truth about Southport killer Axel Rudakabana's terrorist connections from the public, is Starmer really going to make the same egregious mistake again? The Prime Minister's unnecessary secrecy surrounding Southport inflamed an already tense situation. Is our undear leader actually set to treat this long-suffering nation to a rancid sequel? Will he ever learn? 0344 499 1000. Still with Southport and our lying Prime Minister, a police report published today found, and I quote, no conclusive evidence that the summer riots triggered by Southport were coordinated by extremist groups, and that the angry mobs were protesting against policies, and this is a quote, policies and decisions on migration and asylum. This is an official police report today. In other words, when Two-Tier insisted that the widespread demonstrations that went all over the country in the summer were not protests at all, remember when he kept saying that, these are not protests, they're not protests, he was talking out of his backside. As usual, and that his constantly repeated refrain that the rioters were far-right thugs was absolute garbage. What a disgrace. 0344 499 1000. In other news, the new Indian trade deal is set to unleash an influx of an estimated 500,000 Indian workers to add to the million or so legal migrants Britain already lets in on an annual basis. And unlike British workers, our new Indian friends won't have to pay national insurance. Is that fair? Can we take another 500,000 people coming to this country to live? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, after Leader of the House Lucy Powell's shameful dismissal of the rape gang scandal as a dog whistle issue, Number 10 seems to be taking the same disgraceful attitude, complaining that opponents are weaponising the worst sex abuse scandal in British history against them. Why can't these Labour robots just behave like human beings? This horror isn't just a political football. It's not a political football. It's a human issue. Lucy Powell and Number 10 Downing Street ought to be able to realise that. Why can't they? 0344 499 1000. Plus, The Tories are plotting to bring back lefty net zero fanatic Boris Johnson. Sure, Kemi's useless, but surely Bojo, who'd be a bit sort of left-wing even if he was in the Lib Dems, would be worse. What do you reckon? 03444991000. And finally, what's wrong with Harry? We'll put the paranoid prince on the psychiatrist's couch. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now, on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together. Now, let's go straight over to my first guest for the first 60 minutes. Always look forward to this. I will spend them in the excellent company of Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Thank you. For a minute, I thought you'd forgotten what day it was.
Yeah, I did have a little moment there because last Friday I got it wrong.
I know, well, it's very easily done, especially when there's a bank holiday. It kind of completely muddles your mind, doesn't it? But it's certainly a day with no shortage of things to talk about or be outraged about. I think we're going to begin with the Iranian terror plot, aren't we?
Yes, we are. The allegation against the charge against the Prime Minister and this Labour government is they're going down Southport Alley once more. Now, questions have been asked about these 8 Iranian nationals that were arrested all over the country on Saturday in what you have to say it was a pretty impressive police operation. We learned just now, actually, just in the last couple of hours, that these Iranians were plotting to attack the Israeli embassy here. That attack has obviously been foiled. So we need to know about these suspects. They haven't been charged yet. It's very important to remember that. But they are being interrogated. They are still detained, of course. We need to know about them. And just like we wanted to know about the Southport killer suspect, Axel Rudakabana, you know, any connection to terrorism? Is he an asylum seeker? Is he a foreigner? Is he an illegal migrant? We were asking all these questions, and the government veered between saying that we can't tell you for legal reasons, that's not true, and basically saying, no, he's a lad from Cardiff. In other words, lying to us. I think even Starmer might look back on that operation as something of a mistake. It really inflamed an already very tense situation and added to the intensity of those riots all over the country. Anyway, it seems like they're doing it again because we want to know about these Iranians. On what basis were they in the country? Were they here legally? If so, why? Were they here illegally? Did they come on small boats? Were they asylum seekers? Are they illegal migrants? The government was asked this directly. So let's remind ourselves of what happened in the House of Commons yesterday. First of all, it is Deputy Leader of the Reform Party, Richard Tice, asking the Shadow Home Office Minister, Dan Jarvis, about these people who've been arrested. Take it away, Richard.
The Minister has paid tribute to the quality of advice from Jonathan Hall, KC, the independent reviewer of terrorism, and said that he will indeed listen to that advice. Well, that same Jonathan Hall, KC, last autumn advised that in serious incidences involving terror and these sorts of incidents, it would be better to put out more information sooner in order to prevent misinformation. And in order to prevent misinformation, surely the Minister should tell us and the British people who want to know how long have these Iranian nationals been in this country and what is their immigration status?
Well, let me say to the honourable member that that's precisely why I made the point to the Shadow Minister about the importance of transparency. It's precisely why the government have proactively brought forward a statement to the House today in order to give members the opportunity to ask questions. And it's precisely why, earlier on, I gave a commitment that the Home Secretary will come and update the House when we are operationally able to do so. I know that the honourable member understands the importance of not cutting across a live police terrorism operation. I hope he will acknowledge that we take these matters incredibly seriously, that we brought forward a range of measures in March, that goes a long way towards addressing the nature of the threat that we face. I hope he acknowledges the serious nature with which we always take these matters. But I say to him, I'm very happy to discuss these matters with him outside of this chamber, should he wish to do so.
Yeah, maybe you might like to tell the public as well. Just to prove this is not just a reform issue, the Shadow Minister for Crime, Policing and Fire, Matt Vickers, also asked questions on this issue. So this is Matt Vickers.
In October, the head of MI5 said that together the police and MI5 had disrupted 43 late-stage attack plots since the Manchester bombing. We must remember that each of these cases is not merely a statistic, but represents someone's life and someone's future. I commend the Minister for recognising the work of the previous government and for acknowledging the measures that were used effectively in this incident. In turn, I know that we'll support measures that enact the National Security Act and give the government the powers needed to act against malign influences on our country. Turning to the incident at hand, I'd be grateful if the Minister could clarify certain points. While I'm thankful for today's statement, I hope the government will, moving forwards, be as transparent as possible about the details.
So, Isabel, they're not being transparent. They're doing it again, aren't they? And they're hiding behind, oh, it's an ongoing police operation. There's been suggestions, well, you know, we can't reveal too much because it could prejudice these arrestees' trials. As I keep saying, you know about this, journalists know this, lawyers know this. You cannot say that their trials will be prejudiced when there are no trials. There are no trials until they are charged. Once again, it is this government, led by a lawyer, a barrister, Keir Starmer, hiding behind a false legal fence, I would suggest, to keep us in the dark again, and we are going to have a Southport too, unless we are careful.
Well, as MPs left the debating chamber yesterday, I think there was a whiff of a cover-up in the air. So many times, the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis, who has a really interesting and respectable military background, so he should surely understand these matters. Time and again, he promised to be transparent about what had happened over the weekend, this extraordinary, deadly plot that our security services brilliantly managed to foil. But the one question he repeatedly refused to answer was about the immigration status of the 8 Iranian nationals concerned. Now, because they've been called Iranian nationals, we know that they were not born in the UK. So at some point they came to the UK. And the question is, when and how and on what basis have they been here? It may well be that they've been in the UK for a very long time. I suspect that's the case and that they've been operating under the radar for a very long time and probably didn't come over on a small boat. But that's me speculating, and I'm having to speculate because the government won't tell us. And the idea that we can't be told what the immigration status is or was of these Iranian nationals because it would somehow impede an ongoing police operation, I think is frankly for the birds. I can't fathom any way in which it would have an operational impact to tell us, were they legal or were they illegal migrants? When did they come here? And what is the story there? And in the absence of that information, exactly the same happens as happened over Southport. We are left to our own imaginations, and that is not good for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, will these people ever learn? I mean, he won't admit it. OK, thanks very much, bye. No, Keir Starmer won't admit this, but he must know in his private moments that he made a real hash of the summer. You remember, part of the reason that local crowds were getting so agitated was it was being spread around that the perpetrator, the murderer, had some kind of connection to terrorism. They thought he might have been some kind of Syrian immigrant or someone like that. They thought he was an asylum seeker, an illegal. This was what was flying around. And this exacerbated an already incendiary situation. And what did we get from Keir and the authorities? Oh, no, he's a Welsh lad from Cardiff. He wasn't. He was the son of Rwandan migrants. Also, Keir Starmer knew full well that in Axel Ruda-Kapana's house, they found the moments very soon after he was arrested. They found enough ricin poison to kill thousands of people and an Al-Qaeda training manual. So there was a direct terrorism connection. So they kept all that quiet. And that caused, well, to call it a summer of discontent is something of an understatement. That was why so much misinformation spread, because the government and the police and the authorities were assailing us with blatant misinformation, and they knew it. And it looks like they might be going down the same track again, which is just extraordinary.
Well, it was also worth noting, turning back to Iran, that Iranians make up the third most prominent nationality coming across to the UK in the small boats. Last year, no fewer than 4,158 Iranians crossed the channel in small boats and are likely now given asylum and given refugee status in the UK. I'm sure the vast majority of those Iranians detest the Iranian regime as much as the rest of us do. But how can we be sure that they all do? We are letting a tidal wave of Iranians from one of the most hostile states on the planet into our country. Surely that is a national security risk.
Yeah, and let's just make this plain. You know, we've spoken to some very senior people, experts in the field today, some senior politicians, and all of them have told us, and I agree with it, I could have told them without consulting, that revealing whether or not these Iranian nationals came across on a small boat, are illegal migrants, are asylum seekers, would have no bearing on this investigation whatsoever. It is information that could be given to the public with no danger to the investigation and no danger to prejudicing their trials. So why won't they tell us?
Why indeed? What exactly have they got to hide? I mean, it seems certain that there will be something to hide here, as I say, because quite simply, they're Iranian nationals. And so that begs a question, on what basis have they come here? Have they lied in order to get here about, you know, whatever their work status is? I don't know, but I don't think it's an unreasonable question to ask and to demand an answer to, particularly at this time of incredibly heightened public sensitivity about who is and who is not coming into our country, whether legally or illegally. There has been a total loss of control of our borders. And I think we are entitled to know whether the collapse of our border controls is contributing to this national security crisis. I would add that since 2022, there have been some 20 Iranian-backed terror plots foiled or thwarted or dealt with by our security services. This isn't a laughing matter.
No, and just as with the Southport case, you can't help speculating that there's something about these 8 Iranians, something about their status, their circumstances, that the government is likely to find very embarrassing, just like it was embarrassed by Axel Ruda-Kapana and the story there. You can't help speculating that, because otherwise, why would they be covering up yet again? Extraordinary. Let me ask the audience, do you feel that the government should tell us more about these people they've arrested? They were arrested all over the country. They were plotting some kind of awful attack on the Israeli embassy, which would be a rerun. If you remember, the Iranian embassy was attacked all those years ago, so it could be a sort of echo of the past, only a different way round. They were plotting something awful, but is there something about these 8 Iranians still arrested, still being interrogated, not yet charged, that the government doesn't want us to know? I suspect there seriously is. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. When we come back, Isabel, we're going to be talking about an extraordinary report today published by the Police Inspectorate, which goes back to the Southport riots, to the summer riots, and actually proves, shoots down everything that Keir Starmer told us during the summer. It is absolutely remarkable. We'll talk about that after this break.
what disgracefully the government didn't mention in their statement in the House of Commons yesterday was anything to do with the movement of people.
Yeah.
And it turns out that Indian workers coming to work in the UK won't have to pay any national insurance on the employer, nor will the employer. So guess what? If an employer in the UK can suddenly employ an Indian worker coming over and save themselves 15% national insurance, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out what some employers are going to do.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do we have the right to know about the 8 Iranians who have been arrested plotting an attack on the Israeli embassy here in London? Do we have the right to know whether or not they're illegal migrants, whether or not they're asylum seekers, how they got here? Did they come on small boats? Surely we have the right to know. Why is the government keeping us in the dark again, just like they did in Southport? 03444991000. I'm still with Isabella Oakeshott, Talk's international editor. Isabel, we're still with Southport here, and I think this has been underplayed today. The police inspectorate, they're called, led by His Majesty's Chief Inspector of Constabulary, Sir Andy Cook, have issued a report today all about the summer of discontent, the riots, particularly in Southport. So all these riots happened all over the country after Axel Rudakabana's horrific murder of those poor little girls and the attacks on the other people in that dance hall there. Sad even to remember it, isn't it? But this report, now you remember the Prime Minister's reaction to it. First of all, didn't tell us there was a terrorist reaction. Sanctioned the release of a statement saying he was a lad from Cardiff who'd moved north. No mention of the fact he was the son of Rwandan immigrants. No mention of the fact that his bedroom was full of ricin and an Al-Qaeda manual. So we were kept in the dark there deliberately by a secretive and weird government who frankly were out of their depth. They were just terrified. Anyway, guess what? This report says that, and of course Keir Starmer throughout this phase said that he kept saying these are not protests, they're not protests, far right thugs, they're just far right thugs. So they're not protests, these are just far right thugs causing trouble. That was what the Prime Minister told us ad infinitum, day in, day out for weeks. Remember? He just wouldn't stop with far-right thugs. These are not protests. Right, this is the published report today by the Police Inspectorate. It found, and I quote, no conclusive evidence that the summer riots that were triggered by the Southport murders were coordinated by extremist groups. So, not far-right thugs then. And that most of the protesters were local, so it wasn't a coordinated cross-country effort, were local and I'm quoting again, the violence was mainly unrelated to their ideology or political views. So not far-right thugs then. And it goes on to say, what were the reasons for these protests? So it does say they were protests. Keir Starmer, they're not protests. Were they then just a sort of spontaneous eruption of violence for no reason whatsoever? They were protesting against the migrant crisis, Keir. Anyway, as confirmed by this report, so His Majesty's Chief Inspector of Constabulary, Sir Andy Cook's report says, quotes, some of the main reasons for the widespread disorder were social deprivation, austerity and the economic downturn, and this is the interesting bit, political policies and decisions on migration and asylum and decreasing trust in policing. So this report says that one of the main reasons for these protests, which it says were protests and were protests not participated in by far-right thugs, was that they were protesting against political policies and decisions on migration and asylum. This is shameful for the Prime Minister, isn't it?
I mean, his whole response to those riots was shameful. I still find it very, very hard to forget or accept that there are people languishing in prison for long periods of time who wrongly participated in those riots, but generally as very bit part players. I mean, some of those in prison were only right on the edges of the riots and weren't violent and weren't responsible for anything that you or I would consider comparable to some of the terrible crimes that seem to result in no prison sentence at all. And the idea that those that took to the streets were somehow highly politicized, organized nutters from extremist sort of semi-fascist groups is an absolute nonsense. You only had to look at the makeup of the people there. I suspect the report is absolutely right when it talks about deprivation. Many of those that participated have not had the benefit of a fantastic education or the good things in life and are simply absolutely fed up of seeing what they consider special treatment of those who have arrived in this country more recently. And they took to the streets, because they thought that the Southport killer was something to do with the migration crisis. And in a sense, they weren't totally wrong with that, were they?
No, they
because
weren't.
He was the son of Rwandan refugees who this Rudakabana was heavily influenced as a result of that genocide. We know that from all the reporting around what happened. So people weren't crazy to make a connection between our attitude to asylum and immigration and what happens in Southport, and nor were they fascists.
Yeah, let's stress this as well. Keir Starmer, a big fan of misinformation, has encouraged the misinformation that all of these rioters, all of the demonstrators, the protesters, because they weren't all rioters, were far-right thugs rioting for no particular reason, just to cause trouble. Now, I tell you this, the majority of people who went out onto the streets in the summer were not far-right thugs, not affiliated to political groups. What they were doing was protesting, most of them protesting peacefully against the migrant crisis and the government's handling. Most of them. Well, of course, we're not condoning or supporting the violent thugs who threw bricks at the police, tried to set fire to mosques and migrant hotels. There was a small element of that. But the idea that everybody who hit the streets in the summer was some kind of far-right violent maniac, it's just not true. Most of them were peaceful protesters. That is something that has got lost in the mists of time, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And it seems to me the moment that Keir Starmer's premiership just unravelled, extraordinarily, within a few short weeks of him taking office, this is where the rot set in on his premiership, and I don't think he's ever recovered from it. And I know we're coming to other stories later about how he keeps on compounding the errors that he's made all the way through. And this Southport case, this disaster, this horror, is going to haunt his premiership, I think, for as long as it lasts.
And it looks like the Iranian situation may not be his finest hour either, as we were just discussing. Please don't tell me he's going to go down the same rabbit hole, but it looks as if he is. It's extraordinary. This guy, a man who makes so many mistakes, ought to learn how to learn from these mistakes, but no, he doesn't. Right, well, let's go to break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Indian trade deal, which looks as if it's going to add to our population in some kind of significant style. So we'll talk about that after this break.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, let's talk about this Indian trade deal, which kind of emerged late yesterday afternoon. Ostensibly, at first, it seemed like quite a good situation. I mean, getting a decent trade deal with a massive economic entity like India is a good thing. There's no doubt about that. The trouble is, the small print is not so good. First of all, we learnt last night that the Indian workers who will be allowed to come and work here, live and work here, legal visas, of course, more legal migrants, won't have to pay national insurance, which will make them very, very attractive to employers, companies. Companies will hire these people way before they hire British people because they're going to be that much cheaper. Also, British people will find themselves working next to their Indian colleagues who are earning more than them because the British employees are having to pay national insurance. Now, that's something that I think is not fair. And I think a lot of British people agree with me. But here's what really worries me about this. Look, I accept if you're going to do a significant trade deal with a major economic country like India, you're going to have to make some compromises, some sacrifices. That's fair enough, but you've got to look at them. When this same deal was offered to the Tory government, Kemi Badenoch, the then business secretary, turned it down because of the national insurance clause. She said that's not fair. So she turned it down. One of her rare good decisions, I suspect. But this is the aspect of it that really, really worries me, though. This will unleash an influx of Indian workers into this country. Now, it is estimated that as many as 500,000 Indians may soon be on their way to live and work in Britain legally. Good luck to them and all that. But we let in already 1 million legal migrants every year. And everybody said, we're going to cut back on that. It's ridiculous. This country is full. We can't handle this. We're going to get 500,000 more. And in case people doubt the magnitude of that number, in 2023, when we didn't have a deal with India, 250,000 Indians came here under the same arrangement. And even last year, when the government had for 2 years desperately been trying to cut back on this enormous number coming over from the sub-Indian continent, it was like the best part of 90,000. So 250,000 in 2023, 90,000 last year. When this deal comes in, 500,000, that's probably a conservative estimate. Wait, this is ridiculous.
Well, let's pause just for a minute to reflect on what's happened here politically. So less than a week ago, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party got an absolute kicking in the local elections and in that by-election, primarily because of immigration. And then in a few days after that absolute kicking over immigration, what do? They announce more immigration. It does make me wonder, are these people mad, bad, or just staggeringly stupid? What is it that they don't understand about where the British people are right now on the immigration question? As a Brexiteer, of course, I want to see the mega trade deals of this kind. And it's fantastic that we've got a trade deal with India. But there's a reason that the last Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, the Tory Prime Minister, kept on turning down the arrangements that the Indian government were trying to make. You know, Rishi Sunak desperately wanted a trade deal with India. He, of all people, he's from an Indian family. His parents-in-law live in India. And he kept on declining it because the Indian government was making unreasonable demands for additional visas. And then along comes Keir Starmer and he's like, yeah, sure, you can have this deal and this free national insurance system over 3 years. And apparently these people will be able to come for a limited period on this basis. Well, first of all, I don't believe that a limited period, the 3-year thing, will end up just being 3 years in many cases. We've seen this too many times before. People come over and they are supposedly on short-term visas, and then, they get, as I said on Jeremy Kyle's show earlier today, they get themselves a pet goldfish, and then due to their human rights, they can't be asked to leave.
Yeah.
Or they have a child, or they get into a relationship, whatever it may be. Secondly, I worry that
they take a liking to the chicken nuggets here and they won't like the taste of them back in India, something like that.
Something like that. And then there's the question of how many dependents they'll be allowed to bring. And at this point, the UK just does not need any more immigration. And final point I would make on this is if they're not paying national insurance, are they therefore not allowed to access any of the public services like the health service that national insurance helps to pay for? Or are they going to have full access to all our benefits and publicly funded services? I suspect it's the second of those things. How can that be right?
It's going to be the latter without a shadow of a doubt. But as you say, I mean, it's tin-eared doesn't begin to cover Labour's attitude to this deal. It's a £5 billion trade deal. It's well worth it. And as you quite rightly say, Rishi Sunak and Kemi Badenoch back in the day when they were still the government were chomping at the bit to sign this deal, and it would have made them look very good. Great post-Brexit deal, independent Britain and all that. And I mean, full marks to them for resisting the temptation, because they saw that the drawbacks outweighed the pros. The cons outweighed the pros. The national insurance just is not fair. It will enrage people. It already has enraged people. But as I say, my biggest concern, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me, is, we've already, we let in every year the best part of 1 million, sometimes more, legal migrants. What the hell is that about anyway? This deal could easily add 500,000. So we'll end up letting in 1.5 million, 500,000 of them Indians. Now, I've got no problem with whoever the hell we let in. It's just we should not be letting in that many people. To say, yeah, we just signed a deal that could add another 500,000 to our tally of legal migrants who come to this country every year, it's just extraordinary that they don't see any problems with that. Well, I think they do. But I think this is a disaster.
It's totally taken the shine off their announcement. I mean, they obviously thought they would be able to announce this trade deal in a blaze of positive publicity. But yet again, nobody inside Number 10 was able to see this through the eyes of the vast majority of British workers, who will say, what the hell? What are you doing? And now all the headlines are going to be about two-tier tax. Yeah. We've had two-tier everything else. It's two-tier tax, yeah. Totally spoils the celebration that they had planned. And, I'm not sorry for them, because how is it that they just couldn't see this? It's utterly bizarre.
Yeah, as I say, the Indians that turn up here, many of them actually looking for work. It's not company transfers. Some of them will be, but many of them will just come here looking for work. They may find it quite easy to get work, much easier than the average Brit, because they're going to be so much cheaper to hire. Because companies, of course, have to make rather sizable national insurance contributions to the employees' national insurance payments. So employees pay them and companies pay them. As I was saying last night, big companies, when Rachel Reeves went back on her promise and hiked national insurance for companies, it's costing big companies like the one we work for here, for example, News UK, companies that employ thousands of people. The bill for this increase on national insurance is just astronomical. It's astronomical. So these guys that come over, and girls, of course, that come over from India, no national insurance requirements, they're going to be very attractive. So if you're a Brit and you're going for a job and you're up against one of these new Indian arrivals, you're not getting the job. So that is worth thinking about.
Yeah, just
go on.
Just to be clear, Kev, in theory, it is only intercompany transfers, but the worry is that there'll be a bunch of fake companies set up in Delhi and a bunch of fake companies at the other end. We've seen it all before with fake universities, and that's what will happen.
Absolutely. As I say, these, it's, in case you doubt the number of Indians that have already been coming over, the numbers are massive. As I said, 2023, 2 years ago, 250,000. That was without this deal. So 500,000 with this deal. I mean, there may be trouble ahead. Let's go to break. When we come back, well, I can't believe we're going to talk about Boris Johnson. I just can't wait. That next. Stay tuned.
The residents of Gaza are never going to have a chance for a future until this Hamas cloud is removed from them. We've finally now seen some demonstrations by the Gazans against Hamas, but ultimately it would be a mistake to rebuild a high-rise refugee camp. I think the only humane way to help the Palestinians in Gaza is to look for resettlement in other Arab countries.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, I'm wishing my life away. We're going to talk about Boris after the 8 o'clock news. This is, of course, the story that the Tories are plotting to bring him back. Just very, very quickly, because we've got something more important to talk about. That would be a disaster, wouldn't it?
I think if the Tories think that Boris is the answer to their problems, then that just shows how desperate they are. Just remember that Boris Johnson tried to introduce an amnesty on illegal immigrants in London when he was mayor. Boris Johnson was the champion of net zero, and Boris Johnson left office in disgrace for lying. So he has way, way, way too much baggage to be a successful leader of the Conservative Party.
And he's too left-wing as well. He's too left-wing for the Lib Dems, if you ask me. You know, totally obsessed with that net zero claptrap, as you said, just not bothered about the migrant crisis, loved Stonewall and all that LGBTQ stuff. I mean, this guy wasn't a Conservative, isn't a Conservative. So if you do bring Boris back, Tories, good luck with that. Charming and funny and entertaining though he is not the man for the Tories. Sadly, Kemi is not the woman for the Tories either, but we'll be talking about that in a minute. What I want to talk to you about, Isabel, is this extraordinary saga. So last Friday, Lucy Powell, the leader of the House, senior cabinet minister, went on to Any Questions, the Radio 4 debate show, with our friend Tim Montgomery, one of the other panellists. Tim Montgomery asked her, have you seen Channel 4's harrowing documentary, Grooming, a national scandal about the rape gang scandal, obviously? And she reacted as if it was just a political football. Oh, we're going to blow that trumpet, are we? Oh, pass me the dog whistle. She then had to apologise because it is a lot more than a political football. One senses that Downing Street made her apologise. I know there was a lot of backroom activity. The Cabinet Number 10 were very dismayed by what she said. Quite rightly. She came across as an inhuman, callous robot. It's not a political football. It's 250,000 vulnerable girls were raped, tortured, treated like animals, and you think it's just something to be kicked around in the House of Commons, Lucy? Do me a favour. So while we feast on the grave of her political career, today, Number 10 Downing Street, who clearly got her to apologise, seem to have backed her up. They've released a statement saying, oh, you know, people are just using the great rape gang scandal, weaponising it against us to make political points. When are they going to understand? This is a human issue, not a political issue. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, I don't think any of us should make any apology for using it against them, because in so many cases, it was their councillors and other figures attached to the Labour Party who were in charge and bore responsibility for the most astonishing, appalling cover-ups that took place that allowed this abuse to go on and is still allowing this abuse to go on in some cases. And you know what's really terrifying is that Lucy Powell is actually one of the better Labour ministers and MPs. Lucy Powell is ordinarily a sensible, measured, more than half decent individual. So if she can say things like that, just imagine what the various real nutters in the Labour Party are actually secretly thinking. I think that's the point here. You know, anyone can slip up on live political programmes. I know what it's like to be under that pressure, but I think what this gives us as an insight into the Labour Party's psychology on this issue, and their reflex is just to say, oh, this is all just, you know, our political opponents getting at us, and it's all whipped up and so on and so forth. And it's just, that's just an inch away from going down that whole racism line, isn't it?
Yeah, and nobody is weaponising this against the government, as you quite rightly say. We are merely stating the facts, and some of the facts are that the nation, this country, demands, or certainly desires, a national inquiry into the worst sex abuse scandal in this country's history. 250,000 victims, vulnerable young white girls treated like animals by Muslim, mostly of Pakistani origin men, operating in gangs, you know, for over more than a decade, and they think it's still going on. In fact, they're pretty certain it's still going on. This isn't a political football. This is not a dog whistle issue. This is a very, very serious human issue. Lucy Powell forgot that. Let's give her a bit of a break. In the heat of the debate, she forgot that. But I think she will struggle politically to ever recover from that howler. But the government still seems to think, oh yeah, they're weaponising this against us. Come on. It's not good enough, is it?
It really isn't good enough. And again, you know, this scandal didn't exactly happen on their watch, in the sense that, you know, they weren't in government for many of the years during which this took place, but a lot of the responsibility rests at a local government level. Yeah, a lot of
but don't forget who was the Director of Public Prosecutions for many of the years when this was going. Oh, that was a certain Mr. Keir Starmer, wasn't it? So he's right in the thick of this.
And there's overwhelming evidence, isn't there, that an awful lot of other Labour figures at a local level were all too keen to sweep this under the carpet. So it's been an absolute horror show for the Labour Party. It will continue to be a stain on this country's reputation. And, you know, you've spoken very, very powerfully to some of the victims who have managed to fortunately move on with their lives. You know, these young women, their lives have been changed forever by this absolutely grotesque abuse. In no way, shape or form should any government minister or spokeswoman or man try to sweep this aside or dismiss it as some kind of, you know, minor political row, point-scoring row.
Yeah, and to classify it as something that opponents are weaponising. That's the issue here. Lucy Powell and now Number 10 sort of feel, oh, yeah, well, you're just hitting us, you're using this as a stick to hit us over the head with. Well, that's not true. They're getting a hard time because the nation demands a national inquiry, and they won't give us one because, as you quite rightly say, it'll be very, very embarrassing for many Labour councils, local Labour areas. It will be embarrassing for the police. It will be embarrassing for teachers. It will be embarrassing for social workers. And it will be embarrassing for Keir Starmer because his period as the Director of Public Prosecutions, I believe, went from 2008 to 2013, something like that. It was all going on then, and during his administration, not a single conviction of any rape gang member. So he's in it up to here as well. That's why they're talking about weaponising it against them, because every time somebody mentions it, they feel vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly that. They just can't wait. They just want to shut down this debate. They want it to go away because it is so uncomfortable, so embarrassing, and so politically tricky for them because of their dependence on the votes from some of these communities, some of the communities that were most wrapped up in the appalling things that were done.
And let's not forget, lest we forget, it's pretty certain that this horror is still going on. So once again, I think the authorities got to step up to the plate. But this plays right into the Labour playbook, doesn't it? That most of these people who did nothing were sort of Labour sympathisers, and they were terrified of going for the rape gangs because they're Islamic, they're Muslims, Pakistani origins, and they feared that if they went round arresting them, giving them a hard time, which they should have done, that they would be accused of racism. As if that's more, them being accused of racism was more important to them than the fact that young girls were being tortured and raped. So shame on them. Isabel, great to talk to you. We'll do it all again tomorrow night. Thank you very much. That is our international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. As I say, will be back with us tomorrow night at 7 p.m. For another entertaining, compelling hour, I hope. When we come back, Ben Habib joins me. We're going to ask, are the Tories right to think about bringing back Boris Johnson?
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Breaking news, there's black smoke pouring from the roof of the Sistine Chapel. Either it's on fire or those cardinals have failed to make a decision. They have not come to a decision as to who the next pope will be. Come on, make your minds up, for God's sake. So God's... That's the right word, isn't it, really? No, but they always do this. It's expected, actually, that this conclave might go on for several days. It might be longer than most because it's a close-run race. Yeah, black smoke, what that means is they've had a vote, but it's inconclusive. So the chances are there'll be another black smoke, and I don't know how many black smokes there'll be. But in the end, when they reach a decision, white smoke will emerge, and that means there's a new pope in town. If that does happen tonight, of course, we'll tell you, but I think it's very unlikely tonight. So black smoke pouring from the Sistine Chapel. Let's hope it's not on fire. Let's go back to the show. We're going to talk about... the Tories and indeed reform. Who better to do so with than the excellent Ben Habib. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Good evening, Kevin. Good to see you.
Good to see you always. So you're, of course, chairman of the Great British PAC, a former deputy leader of Reform UK, but it's not Reform I want to talk about with you at this stage, but I do in a minute because something happened on Thursday and Friday, something of a political earthquake. We need to talk about that and need to talk about the ramifications of what lies ahead, because it's not going to be easy. There's a rocky road ahead. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, the Tories. It was a terrible night for Labour, obviously. Arguably an even worse night for the Tories. Obliterated, annihilated all over the country. They lost something like 650 council seats. They were barely...
78.
678. They were barely in the running in Runcorn in the parliamentary by-election. So they have become kind of almost a sideshow. And they are in deep trouble. So we now hear... because they're obviously very, very upset or dissatisfied with Kemi Badenoch's performance so far. She's not laying a glove on anyone. She really is not working out. So they're thrashing around in their time-honoured fashion. Who can replace her? Obviously, the obvious replacement would be Robert Jenrick. But, of course, guess what? They're talking about bringing back Boris Johnson. As I was just saying to Isabel Oakeshott, I find Boris Johnson very likeable, very charming, very entertaining. He's fun to have on the political stage. But as a Conservative, he's a non-starter. He's not a Conservative. He's a net zero nutter, loves net zero, couldn't care less about the migrant crisis, and was a very, very keen advocate of Stonewall and all their LGBTQ work. This man is not a Conservative. If they do make the mistake of bringing him back, it will be the mistake of their lives. I think they're arguably finished now. Bring back Boris and they're definitely finished. Would you agree?
I completely agree. Whatever the question is, Boris is not the answer. They're having clearly an existential crisis, but they've got to rediscover their Conservative roots. Boris, as you pointed out, is a liberal, basically. He was part of the sort of global liberal order, as I call it, the promotion of ideologies such as mass migration, multiculturalism, net zero, diversity, equity and inclusion. I'm not going in any particular coherent order, but you get the picture. And Boris Johnson delivered this country to its knees. Remember, when he took over, our national debt was something like $1.5 trillion. By the time we left, our national debt was in excess of $2 trillion. When he took over, we were growing at about 2% per annum each year, with the exception of maybe a couple of years during the credit crunch of 2010 and so on. When he left, we've had nothing but anemic growth, I think significantly down to mass immigration of unskilled people. Boris Johnson was a disaster at every level. And of course, the mastermind subject, which exercises me, was leaving the European Union, taking back control to this country. Remember the expression, taking back control. The country would leave the EU as one United Kingdom. We would get Brexit done. He didn't do any of that either, actually. We left the institutions of the European Union, but we left Northern Ireland behind. We committed ourselves to alignment in state aid, competition, employment, environmental law. We signed up to the European arrest warrant. We committed our funding to the European Defence Fund. We committed to staying in the ECHR under the deal that he did with the European Union. Boris Johnson was a disaster at every single level. Let's not misunderstand that. And as much as I love his easygoing, beer drinking ability to communicate with
expensive red wine is what you're looking for.
Probably, but you know, he's one of those guys that you could just sit in a pub with and talk to for hours, and you'd never be bored. You'd never be in a dull moment. He's just a brilliant guy, and probably the best mayor of London ever. And certainly a hell of a lot better than the current incumbent. But he's not the answer of the Conservative Party. What the Conservative Party need to find is their conservatism and splendid isolation, examining your navel, believing that the world will eventually come right, is not a solution to the Conservative Party's woes. Kemi Badenoch needs to come out of the stalls. She needs to rediscover what it means to be a Conservative, and then she needs to articulate that to the British people. She has been not ambiguous, she's been absent from the political battlefield since she took over as leader of the Conservative Party. We've been told that she's not going to tell us what her policies are. Well, if we don't know what her policies are, how can the nation judge the Conservative Party? Yeah. What does she stand for? Where is she? She said some great things, like she is concerned about the rate of demographic change in this country. She even said a couple of weeks ago, but it was completely drowned out because no one's listening, that she is in favor of the deportation of every single illegal migrant in this country, something which even Farage won't say. But no one's listening. Kemi needs to come out of the stalls. She needs to set down what it means to be a Conservative, and then she needs to take the charge to the British people. And every week, he needs to have a new policy which will wow the British people, and she needs to commit to it. Yeah. But instead, she's back in her bunker. And I think tonight he's meeting the One Nation group of Tory MPs. But basically, the Boris Johnson lot, the Liberal Democrats, they should really leave the Tory party, join the Liberal Democrats.
You mean the non-Tory Tories, yeah.
The non-Tory Tories. And that's their problem. They've forgotten what it means to be Conservative.
Well, Ben, but you see, this is exactly it. The reason Reform did so sensationally well at the end of the last week and now have one hell of a head of steam behind them, one hell of a momentum going for them, is because it's not because they're sort of a brand new party with a brand new set of ideas. The Conservatives left the Conservative property open and Reform moved in. Reform are what the Conservatives should be. If you say to Nigel Farage, I know you've got your problems with Farage, but I think you are still probably on board with the basic tenets of the Reform project. Yeah. If you say to Nigel Farage, what will you do about the ECHR? He says, leave it. What will you do about the migrant crisis? Solve it. What will you do about net zero? Cancel it.
The Conservatives have just left an open goal.
When you go to Kemi and the current remnants, the sad remnants of what used to be the magnificent Tory party, and you say, Kemi, what will you do about the ECHR? Well, I'll probably stay in it. I'm not sure because it's a lot more complex than people make out. What will you do about net zero? Oh, well, yes, we still like net zero. We're just not going to go at it quite so full fat as the Labour Party do, etc. You get these wishy-washy Lib Dem answers that Conservatives don't want, don't like, and they go, you know what, I need to find a party that gives me the right answers. And that's why they've defected. That's why they're going to reform in their droves.
I completely agree. And Kemi may think that she's holding the party together, she's avoiding controversial issues, and therefore she's going to manage the process through to some kind of settled position. Actually, what she's doing is vacating the political battlefield, and there will be nothing to come back to. There will be nothing. It will be a barren land for the Conservative Party. She needs to discover her Conservative soul, and then she needs to take a few risks by articulating what it is she believes in, and she's got to carry the party and carry the people of this country. But it's not about Kemi or the Tories, or frankly about reform. What this country desperately needs is a restoration of its constitution, its culture, and the values and principles that we stand for as we used to stand for as the United Kingdom. We need a restoration of the United Kingdom. We need to unpick 30 years of the liberal global order, the hijacking of our democracy, the extreme form of liberalism that we've been practicing. The British people absolutely know what is required. They just need someone to give them the ability to vote for it and then to deliver it. That's what they want. And reform and Nigel Farage's persona absolutely capture that aspiration and that hope.
Well, let's talk about the reforming after the break, but just to stick with the Tories, the decline and fall of the Tories for now. I mean, I do think they do need a new leader. I don't think she's got the stuff. I think she's proved herself to not really be up to the job. Obviously, Jenrick's on massive manoeuvres, but I'm not sure if they brought God Almighty in, that he could save the Tory party. I think we might be seeing the end of a long and glorious party, don't you think?
Another problem for the Conservative Party, and I think this might hoist it by its own petard. As reform has grown, it has taken those members of the Conservative Party that you might typically regard to be conservative. So what you're increasingly having now left behind in the Conservative Party's members are the kind of Liberal Democrat, One Nation, wet Tories. And so there, even though Jenrick may be the answer for the Tory party as a leader, the One Nation membership, increasingly One Nation, wet Liberal Democrat kind of form of membership, won't put him into office. And so the Tories are now in a really desperate position. The electorate last week sent an absolutely unambiguous message for the fourth time that they want conservatism. And when Nigel Farage says, he appeals to the centre-left, to the centre-right, he's actually wrong in that. He's appealing to one aspect of the British people. The British people want their country restored. They want the United Kingdom having policies made for the British interest and for the people's interest. That's what it's nothing about left or right. Left or right is not the debate. And Kemi Badenoch hasn't appreciated that. The membership of the Conservative Party increasingly is not going to reflect it. And so I think they may have reached a tipping point from which there is no return.
Check this out, Ben. This is in the last 3 hours that really sums up what we're both trying to articulate, that is that the reason the Conservative Party is dying a painful and slow death, actually it's quite a fast death at the moment, is because so many Conservative MPs have forgotten what the Tories are supposed to be.
They don't know.
So guess what's happened today? More than a dozen senior Tories, led by Kit Malthouse, have demanded in a letter to Keir Starmer today that he formally recognises Palestine as a state. That's senior Tory MPs. Now, I don't want to get into the Palestine issue, but is that what Kit Malthouse thinks the people of Britain are energised about? What on earth do you think? This is a sort of lefty thing, isn't it?
This is not the salient issue.
The Tories shouldn't be calling for a Palestine state, should they?
No, and so someone in my office, actually, I'll send him a copy of this clip because I had this discussion with him today, said to me, Kit Malthouse is a Brexiteer, he's sort of on the right-hand side, as it were, colloquial right-hand side of the Conservative Party, and I pointed him to this letter. And he said, well, that doesn't completely put him out of the running of being, like one of us. But in my view, it does. He's focusing on completely the wrong issue. No one in the United Kingdom, no one in the Shires, no one in the Red Wall that would typically vote Conservative is fretting about the Palestinian issue. Yeah. What they're fretting about is the restoration of their country, the democracy in this country, the economic and cultural prosperity of this country. That's what people are fussing about.
And the bloody migrant crisis, for God's sake.
And that's part of it, yeah.
And by the way, Conservatives should be supporting Israel. Not calling for the Palestinian state to be brought into being. It's just not Conservative. It's ridiculous. I mean, what the hell do these people think they're doing? Stay where you are. Well, I'll tell you what they're doing. They're making the mistakes that their predecessors have made since they've since David Cameron came in. They're making the same mistakes that the Tories made for 14 disastrous years. Terrified of their own shadow, terrified to be right-wing, desperately worried about Labour, the rise and rise of Labour, therefore turning themselves into Labour-like, going, oh yeah, net zero, yeah, let the migrants in, oh yeah. You know, they're the architects of their own demise because they've forgotten what it means to be Conservatives, and that's why they're dying. When we come back, we'll talk about reform, Ben, so stay where you are.
In the view of India and Prime Minister Modi, just a few hours after signing that curious trade deal with Sir Keir Starmer, he launched this massive attack.
This is a revenge attack because they blame Pakistan.
They blame Pakistan, but in particular they blame the Pakistan intelligence services for nurturing and cherishing Islamist terrorists.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with the chairman of the Great British PAC, Ben Habib. Ben, let's talk about reform because, I mean, you know, their triumph is undeniable. There was a political earthquake last week. They did even better than they thought. I think that the legacy parties, as Alex Phillips likes to call them, you know, the Tories and Labour, were stunned by the magnitude of reform's triumph. Well, I mean, this is a microcosm of the hurdles, the mountain they're going to have to climb, because you know they've won 10 councils, extraordinary. They are now for the first time in the party's history in charge of 10 councils. Now they are going to encounter so much resistance to what they want to do. You know, they want to stop diversity, they want to stop working from home, they want to stop net zero, and so on and so forth. So today we learned Derbyshire in particular apparently is going to give them one hell of a fight. The new Reform councillors are turning up all over the country, particularly in Derbyshire, being told, instructed to undergo DEI, that's diversity, equity and inclusivity, and climate change training. So,
indoctrination.
Yeah. So Nigel Farage says that his newly elected troops, and I quote, will do no such thing. Because we believe, he says, that all people should be treated equally. So there'll be a fight there. The Reform have also announced that all of their council town halls will only be allowed to fly the Union Jack or the St George's flag or local county flags, local area flags. No rainbow pride flags, no Ukraine flags, nothing like that. Now, this is just one small area where Reform are going to be resisted. The woke establishment is going to fight Farage and his party every step of the way. They've got one hell of a battle ahead, haven't they?
So it's going to be very interesting to see how that battle plays out. But before I address that, can I just say, this is not the first seismic political vote. Of course, the first seismic one was 2016, when we voted to leave the European Union. And then there were a couple of other seismic votes.
And look what happened to that.
Yeah, well, exactly. And, you know, that was hijacked. That was played into the rough by Theresa May. And then there were a couple of seismic votes in 2019, when the Brexit Party was returned to the European Parliament as the biggest political party in the European Parliament. And then Boris Johnson won the thumping vote in 2019 general election, and the majority. And all of that was the British people crying out for the agenda that you and I have just been discussing in the context of the Conservative Party, which includes all the things you've just been saying about DEI, ditching net zero, etc. But what I'm so encouraged with, Kevin, is that notwithstanding the governing class is repeatedly ignoring the directions given to them by the British people, they have yet again come out and voted for it. And this gives me huge hope, because it means the British people will go on demanding of those that govern us for that which we know we need in order to survive as a country. And so whether it's Nigel Farage or the Conservative Party or some other complexion of pro-British parties that come out for a British agenda, a proud, independent, prosperous United Kingdom, that I think is going to be the result of the next general election. With or without the Conservatives, almost certainly with Reform in some capacity, and maybe with another force in play, watch this space, we are going to get a party that will stand, a collective and a governing entity which will stand for this country. So I think we can derive huge optimism from the vote last week and recognise that this Labour Party is playing it completely wrong, and they will get an absolute kicking at the next general election.
Absolutely. And what do you make of Keir Starmer's reaction to, as I say, this...
Go faster. Do more of the same.
His reaction, any sentient adult, but any proper politician would look at what happened on Thursday and Friday. If you're the Labour leader, say, I need to move to the right. I seriously need to lurch to the right, because that's what the people want. His response was that he'll go harder and faster with Labour's woke left-wing agenda. Is there something wrong with him?
There is something wrong with him, and it's basically this: he suffers from europhilia, which is an extremely serious disease. and in Europhile land, when you are presented with a problem that challenges your ideology, you just do more of the same, and you do it faster and you do it harder. Every crisis that the European Union has ever faced has been responded to with even more Europe, even more European Union, even more unionism and setting aside the nation state. And that's where Starmer is. Starmer is so hijacked by his affliction with Europhilia that he can't understand that the British people actually want him to represent the United Kingdom. They want him to put our interests first. And that's why I say, and I've said I'm sure on your programme before, Kevin, Starmer is essentially anti-British. He listens to what the British people are saying and he says, oh, well, I better do more of my own ideology. Eventually they'll come round. This man is not fit to hold high office, let alone the prime ministerial position. He is fundamentally anti-British and he needs to be removed from office. The sooner the better.
Yeah, I mean, it is extraordinary. I mean, our traditional, our political establishment, the Tories, the Labour, even the Greens and the Lib Dems, who didn't do too badly. By the way, the Lib Dem votes, as always, were protest votes. Nobody actually votes for the Lib.
Well, I think they're
voting
for someone who can get in a rubber tyre and go down a water slide, or fall off a board in the middle of the
but they're not really, are they? When they vote for that clown, Ed Davey, they're voting against the Tories. They're voting against Labour. It's always a protest vote. But they seem now, Starmer and Badenoch, who's, by the way, after Reform's extraordinary triumph last week, her comment was, I have to admit the protest party did quite well. No, Kimmy, you're the protest party now. But they're willing themselves not to confront the reality of what happened. The reality of that vote, that landslide against everything they've done. So Keir Starmer, he got the public's verdict on his government, his disastrous government, last Thursday and Friday, and his reaction is, I've got to get more left-wing and I've got to get more woke. He's committing political suicide, isn't he?
He is, but he won't see it that way. He will just see that he has to deliver his ideology in a more pure way so the British people wake up to what is good for them. But he doesn't realise that the British people are miles ahead of those who govern us. The British people see exactly what's going on. They see that the way the country's been governed over the last 30, 40 years is against their interests. Mass migration has not worked for the British people. DEI is progressive discrimination in favour of ethnic, religious and other minorities against the British people. They understand that net zero is impoverishing the British people. They understand that high regulations and high taxes are killing small and medium-sized businesses, killing the working class, killing aspiration, killing hope. They understand all of that. The British people understood this a decade ago, if not longer. It's our political class that doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And the first person to wake up to it, Reform, the persona of Farage has woken up to it. The first person genuinely to wake up to it, a party that can offer the policies that deliver what the British people want, will get a thumping majority.
Yeah, and let's make this clear, Ben, because you've obviously had your differences with Nigel Farage and you left the party. But I believe I'm right in saying that you have no animosity towards Reform UK, and also that you support many of its policies.
So I've got no animosity against anyone, frankly, perhaps with the exception of Keir Starmer and the front bench and the Labour Party. Yeah. But for me, it's not about individuals. For me, it is about putting the country first and doing what the British people have repeatedly told our governing class to do. And the only concern I've got a number of concerns about Reform, and it's that actually even Nigel, the persona of Nigel that people believe and accept, represents that. But some of the things Nigel Farage has been saying and the way he governs his party do cause some concern for me. So, he is on the record saying a united Ireland is inevitable. He's not worried about the rate of demographic change. He's not in favour of deporting every illegal migrant who's in the country. He does, and on the ECHR, he says he wants a referendum rather than just leave. And so he says things that wobble me. And then the party is not democratised, so there's no mechanism by which the party can hold Farage to account.
I know you've got your, I know it does, Ben. But I think the sort of guiding principle, the central principle of Reform UK, you are still in favour of. I mean, you support
what I want. I want leaders and people on the front line of politics simply to say this and say it again and again and again. We believe in a proud, independent, sovereign, prosperous United Kingdom. They have to keep saying that until they understand what that means. It means borders. It means putting British citizens first. It means making sure that we don't substitute work for benefits. We have aspiration, we have hope, we have cultural homogeneity, we have a settled United Kingdom, that we can go forward with confidence that our nation itself won't be set aside, that we will have a governing class that will make policies for the British people and for the country, and so on and so on and so on. It's very simple.
It is.
It's good old-fashioned governance for the British people and for the country.
Let's just finish on look, the net zero madness, the lunacy of crazy Ed Miliband will be enough to sink this government alone, but probably more prominent in their charts of problems is the migrant crisis, which gets worse every single day. We learned today that the hotel bill per night, the cost of accommodation per night of our current haul of asylum seekers, way over 100,000 all over the country, is over £4 million every single day. This government has no plans to deter migrants, is not doing anything about stopping them when they get here. They're guaranteed to be allowed to stay. This government's handling of the migrant crisis has been catastrophic. Now,
it's catastrophic.
We all had our sort of problems with the Rwanda scheme, but at least it was something. That idiot Starmer ditched it on the first day. Ever since, we've had no deterrence whatsoever, only enticements. Come to our country. We'll put you in a 4-star hotel. We'll give you £50 a week. We'll give you free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers, and free food, by the way. So please do come and enjoy yourself. So no deterrence whatsoever, merely enticements. And this government is doing absolutely nothing to stop this escalating invasion. Last week, the best part of 2,000 came over. It's ridiculous. When are they going to do something?
It's absurd. And he talks about smashing the gangs. What he doesn't realise is that the British establishment, the judges themselves, who should be breaking up these gangs, standing up for the United Kingdom, deporting illegal migrants, the judges themselves are part of the problem. We discovered last week that something called Refugee Legal Support, which is a charity that started in Greece, has now come right across Europe and exists in the United Kingdom, has members of the judiciary in it.
I didn't know that.
They are actually training other lawyers in how to use the European Convention of Human Rights, specifically the Third Convention and the Eighth Convention, which give you a right to not be terrorized. The third, so Article 3 of the European Convention of Human Rights states that you should be safe from being tortured and so on, and they're using that to claim that actually people are entitled to free service on the NHS. That's the kind of argument they're making. And it's our judiciary that are part of the gang.
Yeah, they really are.
We are aiding and abetting this trade.
And also, just quickly, the smash the gangs strategy is ludicrous. By the way, they formed the Border Security Command last July the 5th, finally hired someone to lead it in September, 200 grand a year, gave him £175 million worth of high-tech, state-of-the-art, cutting-edge techno equipment to find these gangs. So far, they haven't even found a gang. They certainly haven't smashed any, and even if they did, it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. They got to stop the migrants. This government is incoherent, impotent, and completely hopeless when it comes to this crisis.
Absolutely. And of course, we all knew, Kevin, you can't smash the gangs in the United Kingdom sitting here with domestic agencies at your disposal. The gangs are all in Europe.
I don't think it's the way to go about it. That's not the way to go about it, though. You've got to stop the migrants. You smash every gang tonight. There'll be new gangs tomorrow because the migrants will still be customers. So it's supply and demand. It's a disgrace and a complete disaster. Ben, I've got to go now because we're running. I've run seriously over time with you, as I always do. But pleasure to talk to you. Fantastic. Always good to talk to Ben Habib, there, leader of the Great British Pack. Let's go to break and then we'll take a couple of calls when we come back. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go to the phones. In a little while, we're going to be taking a look. Big front page story in The Sun today. We'll show you the picture of that in a second. The Maddie McCann, well, the man they say is a suspect, a guy called Christian Bruckner, a German paedophile currently in jail for rape. They found his lair and they found all this really disturbing evidence. I mean, nothing directly to link him to Maddie McCann, but many believe he is the man who abducted that poor little kid and no doubt killed her. We will talk about that after we take a few phone calls. So first, let's go to the phones and let's talk to Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you this evening?
Oh, I'm very, very well. You concur with me that Boris Johnson is not a great idea for the Tories?
Well, he's on par with the Lib Dem leader, isn't he? Coco the Clan and partner. To be honest, you know, it's ridiculous. Okay, you can have a bit of humour from somebody like that, but he's really no leader. He's no team leader at all. And you don't think he's a team mixer either, to be honest.
My problem with him, Herbie, is, you know, I mean, he's electorally at elections. things. He's great. Yeah. That's why in 2019 he absolutely thrashed Corbyn's Labour Party. It was a sensation because he's very good on the electoral campaign trail because people like him. He's funny, he's relatable, but that's about it. My big problem with him, everything you said is right. You know, he couldn't organise a piddle up in a brewery, as you say, and he's no good at instilling discipline. But my problem with him is he's too left-wing. He's a left-winger.
Well, the problem is, I've met him a couple of times, to be honest, Kevin. You know, and I've been with him, and he was digging up a trench and this, that, and the other. Yes, he's a proper clown, and he certainly mixes in with people, but I don't think he has an idea of really the problems that he has to face and deal with on a day-to-day basis. I don't think he can handle it. I think he's there for himself. He loves the publicity, naturally, and I think he's done a lot of damage to the country, to be honest, by some of his ideas, like what we got through with the Labour Party at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of people, I take those points, Herbie, and a lot of people, you know, will never forgive him for Partygate. I mean, I just think that his real crime there was he's just slapdash, lackadaisical, didn't really think about it. All these stupid little parties happening while the rest of us were locked in our houses. Didn't occur to him that that could lead to trouble. Disorganised, shambolic, more than kind of evil, if you know what I mean. But a lot of people will never forgive him, particularly those who lost loved ones in the COVID crisis. You know, it's like, hang on, we were locked in our house, not allowed out, and our loved ones were dying. You're having parties in Downing Street? Do me a favour. So a lot of people won't forgive him for that. But for me, that isn't the central issue. It is, nor is his disorganised nature, his shambolic nature, his tendency to lie like a little kid. It's that he is too left-wing. He's obsessed with net zero, loves all that green claptrap, didn't really care less about the migrant crisis. Many of us do. And he's big into LGBTQ issues and was a big fan of that awful outfit Stonewall. So he's just a lefty.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, Kevin, is that, you know, I'm one of the people that suffered with COVID myself. I was hospitalised for a week and lucky to come out of it because I'm a diabetic as well. So, you know, an option...
Don't forget he did. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you did. He was very near to death, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yes, he was very near to death. The thing is that we've got two people that really have put in damage to this country, one being Boris and the other one being Sir Keir Starmer and co. It's one nightmare after the other. Do we really need all these nightmares? I don't think we do, to be honest. You know?
Do you think, Herbie, that the Tories are finished? I think we might be seeing the dying embers of that once great party.
Totally. Kevin, they aren't doing anything. They've done nothing to help the nation, the country, bring it together or anything else. As I said, I think before on your programme, is that reform has got to do the one most important thing. It's its last chance corral. They've got to talk to people. They've got to find out what the nation needs, what the country needs, what the boroughs need, and deal with it. Don't ignore it. Don't think, oh, because I'm in power, we do what we like. You've got to get involved. You've got to meet the people. You've got to talk to the people. You've got to deal with the people.
Yeah, I think three areas that I'd be very dynamic on if I was in power. Let's hope that never happens. That would be bad news for the country.
Why not?
But I think Reform agree with me. I would close our borders, make sure no more illegal migrants get into the country. I would completely cancel net zero. Completely cancel. We don't ever talk about that again. And I get rid of all this DEI, diversity, woke claptrap, like Trump did. Those are the three main things I'd do. And Boris wouldn't do any of that. I think hopefully Reform will. Your thoughts?
Well, Kevin, as I said, this is a last chance corral.
Yeah.
If they don't do what the people want, if they don't listen, this migrant crisis is going to cost this country a fortune, which you and I
It is right now. It already has, yeah.
You know, and people can't look. We lost our winter fuel allowance. We're losing assistance where people need it. You know, disabled people, this, that, and the other. This government has lost its way completely. They are putting us under pressure, and I can only see anarchy, unfortunately, round the corner. Kevin, believe you me, something's got to break. My famous saying is that when the nickel elastic breaks, it might be a pretty sight. Well, the nickel elastic's broken.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, I think something happened last week. I mean, the nation spoke last week. And hopefully, in my view, we carry on down that path. What this nation wants, what the people want, is a lurch to the right. They're sick of all this left-wing woke nonsense, all this green claptrap, this nonsense about the asylum crisis, just letting everyone in, DEI, diversity. We're finally allowed to call trans women what they are, blokes in dresses, but that, you know, so in the direction of travel might be slightly encouraging, but we've got a long way to go. Reform are going great guns, but they've got a lot of work to do, and they're going to be combated every step of the way by the woke political establishment. But at least, maybe, just maybe, Herbie, we're at the crossroads. Herbie, I always love talking to you. Thank you very much for another great call. Give me a call again soon. That's Herbie and Harrow. Better go to break now. When we come back, we'll be talking about Maddie McCann and the main suspect, the guy that they think may have abducted and probably killed her. They found his lair. He's a German guy. They found his lair, as they call it, a factory in central Germany, full of very, very disturbing evidence. We'll talk about that when we come back.
What, disgracefully, the government didn't mention in their statement in the House of Commons yesterday was anything to do with the movement of people. Yeah. And it turns out that Indian workers coming to work in the UK won't have to pay any national insurance on the employer, nor will the employer. So guess what? If an employer in the UK can suddenly employ an Indian worker coming over and save themselves 15% national insurance, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out what some employers are going to do.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to talk to Mike Neville, former Scotland Yard detective, of course, in just a second about the Maddie McCann case and the man that many feel may have abducted her and probably, sadly, killed her. We'll talk about that in just a second. But you remember at the beginning of the show, I was discussing with Isabel Oakeshott the Iranian nationals who've been arrested over the weekend, plotting, we're told, a hideous attack on the Israeli embassy in London, terrorists, of course, and various questions are being asked of the government. Why won't you tell us the immigration status of these Iranian nationals that were arrested all over the country on Saturday? And the government won't, so we say they're going down that Southport road again. They're keeping secrets from us that they don't have to. It wouldn't make any difference whether we knew. It would obviously be an issue, but they don't. I would suspect they don't want us to know that they're illegal migrants or asylum seekers, because that would be very embarrassing for them. It would undermine or underline what we know, that the problem with the migrant crisis is that all these people coming in illegally, and a lot of them coming in legally, we don't know anything about. We don't know anything about. They could be the worst terrorists in the world. Maybe these guys, maybe these Iranians. Anyway, it is now being reported elsewhere. I can't substantiate this. I can't vouch for this. But I can tell you it is being reported that as the counter-terrorist police and military personnel on Saturday detained 5 Iranian nationals, in fact, there are as many as 8 were detained in the end, asylum seeker hotels were being searched. So the implication there is that indeed some of these, maybe all of these Iranians who've been detained, arrested, not charged yet, in connection with a plot to bomb the Israeli embassy in London, that the implication here is they were indeed asylum seekers. I can't vouch for that, but worth thinking about, folks. 03444991000. Now, let's go back to our agenda and let's talk about Maddie McCann. I'm going to talk to Mike. Well, let's bring Mike in, and then we'll play the trailer of a programme. The Sun today has a sensational front page, and it's to do with this guy, Christian Bruckner, who is a German, who was in the Prayer Deluge. There it is. They found a cache of his memory sticks, his computer stuff, his USB stick. They found his wallet. All sorts of material has been found, and it's extremely disturbing. I mean, among other things, 75 little kids' swimming costumes. You see where I'm coming from. Anyway, The Sun has worked in conjunction with Channel 4. Channel 4 is running a documentary on it. Here's a trailer from that.
It gives a real insight into how he sees himself.
He had sexually abused a 6-year-old girl.
The Jekyll and Hyde personality.
Friends have told me he can be very charming, but then comes the guy in the night.
So that is a programme in conjunction with The Sun, and it's basically about this guy, Christian Bruckner, who has emerged as one of the leading suspects, or the suspect, who may have kidnapped Maddie McCann all those years ago in Praia da Luz, a holiday resort in Portugal. I think it's 17 years ago, and of course the suspicion is after that he killed her. Well, let's talk to a man who knows a lot about this case, because he's been to Portugal to investigate it, funnily enough, in conjunction with The Sun. He is, of course, former Scotland Yard detective, friend of the show, Mike Neville. Hi, Mike.
Oh, good evening, Kevin.
Now, what was found? So this guy, Bruckner, I don't know where he got his money from, but apparently back in 2008, he paid £20,000 for a disused factory in Germany, in central Germany. It's in a town called Neuwergerseblen, or something like that, anyway. Now, what they found, funnily enough, they found his dog was dead there, underneath the dead dog. They found memory sticks, USB sticks. They found sat-nav evidence. They found horrific child abuse images, pictures of 75 kids, swimming costumes. As I say, sat-nav evidence of his movements in the Algarve area where Maddie disappeared, including his attendance to a 2008 festival there, in which he is alleged to have a car crash, and he got talking to the person he had a car crash with, and he basically allegedly confessed to abducting Maddie, and is said to have declared she did not scream. He's currently in prison, serving a German prison sentence for rape, but he's expected to be released within months. I mean, this is you know about this case. This is a really disturbing picture of a serious, dangerous paedophile, an active paedophile. But I think you've been to Praia da Luz, you investigated with the whole case with the Sun. I think my question to you has to be, do you believe Christian Bruckner is the man?
I'm really not sure, Kevin. And what I'm concerned at here is that they found a man and then fit the crime around it. Bruckner is a very deeply unpleasant individual. He is a convicted rapist. He's a convicted paedophile. As you say, he's currently in prison for raping a 72-year-old woman. And there's no doubt he was in Portugal at that time. The problem I have is that I was in charge of a Lambeth sex offender unit where there were hundreds of people with these wicked desires. And the internet has really brought out how many people have these desires to be paedophiles. It's absolutely disgusting. And sometimes things are lost in translation, because I was also in the military police out in Germany. So I know the German police operate, and the prosecutor, Wolters, over in Brunswick, he has said that there's concrete evidence that Bruckner committed this crime. But there's a sort of nuance in this, because in Germany, concrete evidence means there's a tangible thing to speak to him, Bruckner. You know, he's a paedophile, he was in Portugal in the right area at the right time. Whereas in English, concrete evidence means sort of indisputable proof. You know, you've got CCTV, fingerprints and DNA of him doing the wicked deed. Yeah. So there's a real difference in what concrete evidence means in Germany and in England. And I hope that we can solve this crime. I hope that we can find out what happened to Madeleine, and we can only hope that she's still alive somewhere. But I do get concerned that they're putting lots of evidence, circumstantial evidence together, and making 2 and 2 equal 67 or something. Yeah. Let's see if it is Bruckner, then that is excellent news. But at the moment, nothing seems to be that critical piece of evidence which would name him as the abductor or the killer. It's
a brilliant exclusive in The Sun, and credit to Channel 4 for running it as a documentary as well. It is an insight into this guy, and you can't get away from the fact that when Maddie went missing, he was in the area, and when you look at the kind of person he is, absolutely rampant paedophile, loved kids who were like 3 and 4 years old. You know, you can't blame people for trying to put the pieces together, but as you say, Mike, it's only responsible to say to the audience that there actually is no, to use that phrase in British terms, concrete evidence to link Bruckner to the crime.
That's absolutely right. You know, no doubt they've got all sorts of digital forensic experts looking at all these memory sticks, the computer that's been found. They'll be searching through those. They've got experts on use it to find paedophile pictures. They've got AI now, which is a good thing in the sense that officers are not subjected to having to watch this stuff. I've actually seen such things, and I have to say, of all the things I saw in the police, I wish I'd never ever seen such awful.
You can't unsee it. You can't unsee that. Mike, I've got to move on, but thank you very much for your excellent contribution, as always. That's Mike Neville, former Scotland Yard detective. And when we come back, we're going to put Harry on the couch. Stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the final hour of tonight's Political Asylum. It's been quite an eventful show, I'm sure you will agree. Still no decision from the Vatican. Black smoke pouring from the roof, which means that the cardinals in the conclave have failed to reach their decision as to who the next pope will be. We now await the white smoke, but it could be another. So they keep having these votes, and if it's not conclusive, black smoke. Another vote. Not conclusive, black smoke. Hopefully, in the end they have a vote that is conclusive, white smoke. So we await the white smoke. No pope yet, or no pope named yet. But we'll let you know if that changes. That situation changes. In about 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, we'll be taking your calls, 03444991000. I'll read some of your messages and I'll play some of your WhatsApp voice notes. But before we get to that, we need to talk about Prince Harry, paranoid Prince Harry. Now, I don't know how many of you actually watched the entire interview that he gave to the BBC last Friday in high dudgeon, a bit like a spoiled brat throwing his toys out of the pram, because he just lost his case, his long-running legal battle to demand armed police protection whenever he comes to Britain. The courts threw that out 3 times. Finally, he kept appealing, and it cost him a fortune. But he finally accepted that the battle was lost last Friday, and immediately over in California gave this extraordinary interview to the BBC, which in my view depicted or revealed a man, first of all, in the depths of some kind of despair. He seems very, very sad, very lost, and astonishingly paranoid, and failing to accept any responsibility for anything that's ever happened to him, Meghan, the kids, anything. But everyone's out to get him, his dad, the Home Office, they're conspiring, they want him dead, and so on and so forth. They could deliberately keeping him unsafe. And also it was full of conspiracy theory nonsense, fantastical nonsense that bore no relation to reality. As people said, he's lost all touch with reality. But I'm thinking, what we really saw, in my view, my amateurish view, was a man with psychiatric problems. So I thought we might try and, as it were, metaphorically put Prince Harry on the psychiatrist's couch and try to establish what we think may be wrong with him. To do so, I'm very pleased to be joined by consultant psychiatrist and broadcaster, many of you will have seen him, Dr. Raj Persaud, and also psychologist and narcissism expert, Richard Grannon. Welcome, gentlemen.
Morning.
Evening. Morning. Yeah, you're wishing your life away there, Raj. Well, you heard what I just said. I mean, obviously I don't know, I'm an amateur, but I watched that entire interview with an increasing sense of astonishment. And I thought, well, look, first of all, I think I'm looking at a very sad man, a man in some kind of despair, a very angry man, lashing out at the entire world, but a man with an extraordinary abyss of paranoia. Well, Raj, first, if I can ask you, I mean, do you feel this guy has got some kind of psychiatric problems?
Well, you may be an amateur, but I think you're being psychologically very astute. I thought it was an extraordinary interview, and I think he may have been ill-advised to give the interview so soon after the court case, because it was clear to anyone watching it that he was kind of reeling in shock. And therefore, I was interested in watching it because I'm interested in helping people learn to adjust and cope with life's difficulties. And I thought it was an object lesson in coping with loss, because he just had a loss and he has had a series of losses, but in a way it was an object lesson in how not to cope with loss, basically. And you said that you think that he's finally accepted. I'm not sure I agree with you on that point. I mean, he spent the whole interview rehashing the arguments again and again and again in a rather repetitive nature. So many people would argue he's still obviously in denial that he'd lost. He was reeling in shock. He didn't actually, in a way, accept and in repetitively restating the argument, it was almost like he thought there was a chance someone out there's listening to him and will reverse the decision. So I thought one of the first things you've got to do when you're coping with loss is task one is accept the reality of the loss. And I'm not sure we saw that. And I'm not sure whether Harry has, I mean, I think many people would say, and again, I'm more interested in helping people cope with loss than necessarily psychoanalyzing Harry. I think many people would say someone who's led the kind of life he's had is going to struggle when it comes to coping with loss. Yet life is a series often of losses and difficulties, and we have to learn to adjust. And I think that several of the things that he said were extraordinary. One is about his life being in danger. He went on and on about that, and I agree with you. There was a kind of conspiracy sense to it. But there was some incredible stuff. For example, he said the only person in the royal family who historically has had as high a risk assessment in terms of how dangerous life was for them was the Queen. So there was like a sort of narcissistic comparison with being the Queen, almost. You know,
he's very into his status. What I meant when I said he's finally accepted, I think he's finally accepted he's never going to win this case. He does not accept that the court was right. In fact, he's railing furiously against the decision of the court, which he says is some kind of conspiracy between the court, his father, the Home Office, RAVEC, the committee that decides royal security issues, that they're all together and they're all conspiring against him. Extreme paranoia, I thought. If I could come to you, Richard, you're an expert on narcissism. Do you think he's a narcissist then?
No, not at all. I'll go. I agree with everything that Dr. Raj said. I will go a little bit further with the psychoanalytic theory. I've never met Harry, I've never met Meghan, and I'm not qualified to diagnose. So take this for what it's worth. What I see is a deeply codependent man. He's not recovered from the trauma of being raised in the royal family and losing his mother so young. I think he's in a small cult, and Meghan's the cult leader. I don't think that she's there to replace his mother, Diana. I think she's an extension of Diana's mission, which was to escape the royal family. So he thinks that through Meghan and this weird little cult that he's the mouthpiece of. Because I think you're right about the paranoia, and that's a very narcissistic stance. It's called they're called ideas of reference, which you think everybody's talking about you, everybody's conspiring.
That you're so important that you're the centre of attention, and everybody spends their time thinking about you.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't think that's Harry. I think that comes from her. This poor guy doesn't have a strong sense of self. I think he's been carved out by somebody who's much stronger than him psychologically, much more pathological than him, and he's been fully instrumentalized. And he's now mirroring her worldview, which is paranoid, which is full of these ideas of she thinks she was being racially targeted. She thinks she was being targeted because she was an American. And I always look at this and I'm frustrated. And I think it's the British royal family. How progressive did you really expect them to be? So I think there is narcissism here. And I do think that this is a sort of a narcissistic shared fantasy that's being played out. The sadness you referred to, I think, is real. But it's the exasperation of somebody who's been given a job to do and he's not doing it. The Queen, which is Meghan, has sent him out as her knight errant on a mission, and he failed.
Extraordinary. Well, so we are, Richard. Go back to you, Raj. As Richard was saying there, Raj, it's pretty clear that in this relationship with Meghan, she's the mover and the shaker. She's the one who's lured him to this new life. Come on, let's go to the West Coast. It'll be so much more fun than being in the royal family. By the way, bring your money and bring your royal titles, that kind of stuff. So what I felt probably underpinning this this portrait of a man in despair was that he kind of realises that what he's lost. He's lost everything, hasn't he? For example, on Monday, the magnificent VE Day celebrations, he should have been there on the balcony with the rest of the family in his military uniform. Instead, he's over on the West Coast, probably smoking dope or something. I mean, he's abrogated what he was born for, and I think only now that he's given it up, he realises just what he's lost. Do you agree that he's in a kind of despair about what he's left behind?
Well, certainly, to be fair to the man, he's experienced a lot of terrible losses. I mean, losing his mother, for example, and now his father's got cancer, and he talked very indiscreetly about that, and he talked very wistfully and sadly about not being able to make contact with his father, and then very indiscreetly talking about not being sure how long his father's got left. But the thing that I think for even amateurs or people who aren't professionals were really worried about was what appeared to be a deep level of irrationality.
Yep.
So, for example, he said things like, my life's in danger, almost as much danger as the Queen was, and it's an establishment stitch-up, he said. He kind of started off by saying, I'm surprised by the decision, but then I'm not surprised, okay? And there was a basic hint between the lines. It's an establishment stitch-up. I'm kind of surprised that even the judiciary should be stitched up by the establishment, but maybe I shouldn't be surprised, okay? So then he's got this idea that he's in danger, and then the royal family are standing in the way of proper protection. Okay, so it's almost like the royal family are out to get me or try to get me killed or don't seem to care if I get killed. Okay, so that's a really extraordinary position to be asserting, which he was kind of asserting in the interview. And then he goes, I want these people who I think are all out to get me to protect me. I want the establishment to protect me. So there was something that didn't quite make sense there. If you really think they're out to get you, go and pay for your own security. You might be a lot safer.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was
irrationality there.
Absolutely, there was never much logic to his argument. It's ludicrous. Let's go back to you, Richard. As Raj was saying, this guy, he believes everyone's out to get him. He accused his father, the king, apart from revealing that his father no longer talks to him, he said about this security stuff, because of course it did put the king in an invidious position. His son was suing his government, and that put the king in a very difficult position. But he accused his father of conspiring with the Home Office, with the Ravec committee. He actually said, to make me unsafe. Which is just bizarre. Now, did you feel that among this nonsense, this verbiage that he was coming out with, this is a guy, I don't quite know how he's managed to come to this position. He doesn't understand how this country works. He said two things, right? The courts have made this decision. You are not getting armed police protection. He said, right, I'm going straight to the Prime Minister. I'm going to get him to overturn this decision. Well, the Prime Minister can't do that. He then said, well, I'm going to go to the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. I'm going to get her to do it. She can't do that. He then said, I'm going to get my father to talk to both of them and get them to change this decision. The King, much as we respect and love him, does not rule this country. He can't do anything like this. This guy, Harry, doesn't know how his own country works.
If I could rigidly and a little bit dogmatically stick to my first position, which is that, I think he is a codependent trapped in a narcissistically abusive relationship. It's not really him. Even the language he uses is Californian. She's from Hollywood. She was born and raised in Los Angeles. She's as woke and progressive as it gets. All this therapeutic language, the woke language, the notions of safety, that's not even his... that's not his lexicon, it's hers. Mm-hmm. She's carved him out and she's got him say these things. It's her that doesn't understand how it works. I looked into it because I used to work in the security industry. If there is a known threat and it seems reasonable, he will be given full armed guard if he comes to this country. And if he is invited for a special event, he does get the full armed guard. I understand his position, which is if you pay for private security in the UK, it's difficult to have. You
can't get. Can I just stop you there, Richard? I think. Tell me what you think of my theory. I think the reason he is pursued this rather nebulous concept of, armed guard. As you say, if he phones ahead and said, I'm going to see my dad, they'll say, well, you're going to get an armed guard anyway.
They will.
So it's really
100%.
it's a nebulous, minor point. I think he has pursued this, probably egged on by Meghan, obsessively because of status, because his brother William gets armed police protection, and he wants 100%. The same as his hated brother. Am I right?
He wants the same level of entitlement that he opted out of. He wants blanket security, the same as an active royal family member. And so I think that's why a lot of the British public's response that I was looking at today online is pretty vociferous, because what we feel at a knee-jerk level, especially when everybody's struggling economically, is this is a spoilt brat making an entitled decision and claiming falsely that it's for the safety of his family, which is very emotionally manipulative. If he was in danger, we would protect him. Let nobody be in any doubt. It is about entitlement and status, and I sincerely believe it comes from her, not him.
Let's go back to you. Let's go back to you, Raj. Can I just ask you? Go on. You want to say something?
Yeah, but the other thing that was very, very, again, difficult for people to watch was the counterproductive nature of the sense of wanting to be back in the fold, wanting to connect with these people, and then writing books about them and being very, very difficult and somewhat irritating. So you've got to go to the psychology of the stalker here in a way to understand this. So a stalker persistently follows a victim, and the victim keeps telling him, leave me alone, and the stalker persists because at a deep level, they understand they can't have a proper relationship. So why do they continue being annoying? Because being annoying is better than no relationship at all, right? And so the psychology of the stalker, it's almost like stalking the royal family, which is like, if I'm going to be irritating, then at least I'm in some kind of relationship with them, as opposed to the fact being out in the cold and no relationship at all.
That is a really, really interesting point. Let's go back to you, Richard. Another aspect of this man's apparent personality is this. He does not, I mean, he's an obsessive victim, and I can't help feeling that Meghan has played a part in turning him into that kind of person, because she loves to play the victim card. He plays it now obsessively. But I think the other glaring element of his character that emerged from this interview is he will not take any responsibility for anything that happens to him. Everything that happens is someone else's fault. They're conspiring against me. It wasn't me. It's them. They made a decision against me. They don't like me. What does that mean when somebody never accepts personal responsibility for anything that ever happens to them? What does that mean psychologically?
When I was preparing for this interview, I was thinking, how can I find the most compassionate ways of analysing this? And one of the things that occurred to me is I'm Gen X, and they are both fairly young millennials. So that they are raised in a different generation that is a little bit more safety obsessed and is a little bit more self-centered and entitled. And this thing of not being compelled to take responsibility, it might not be narcissistic. It could be a generational thing. However, as you just pointed out, he is rigid with it. And when you see that rigidity of, no, absolutely, on no point, not once have I heard him say, look, I understand the optics of this aren't great. I wrote that book. I did nothing. He's just a perpetual victim. And at that point, I start to say this has the markings of a rigid, grandiose, paranoid, narcissistic fantasy.
That's really interesting. Raj, I know you want to say something, please do, but let me just ask you this. Would it be better for the prince, and, you know, I'm with all due sympathy for the family situation. Nobody, you know, wants to put the kids through a parental split or anything like that. But given what you're both saying, given what Meghan, I think Meghan has done something to him. I think Meghan has ruined him. Would it be better, healthier for the prince to leave her and come back to what he was born to, the royal family?
Well, certainly a lot of people believe that he took a wrong turn and that this relationship that he's got into is going to ultimately be self-destructive for him. But one of the questions is about his ability to make good decisions, right, and look after himself and make good decisions. And I do think, and I'm going to say something a bit strange here, but I think being brought up in a situation where servants all around you in a royal family type situation, bowing and scraping, doing everything for you. Actually, I know this sounds like it's privilege. In my experience as a psychiatrist, very wealthy, famous people who have everything done for them actually become very disabled, okay? And you can see at the beginning of the interview, he's going, I lost this thing. I wish someone had told me that I had no chance of winning.
That's right.
Well, mate, you have lawyers. And you've got to manage the lawyers. You've got to understand the lawyers might be vampires seeking the suck the blood and money out of you. So you've got to think intelligently about their assessment of your chances of winning. So he kind of like was playing the victim there. And he was sort of a bit annoyed with his lawyers as well, I think. But I believe that these people in a way, become so disabled that they just need everyone around them to do stuff for them, and they can't make good decisions. They can't manage other people and make decisions for themselves. They become so disabled. So I'm going to say something a bit weird. It's almost as if being born a royal is almost like a form of abuse, in a sense, because it destroys you.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like
it's a very, very strange situation to find yourself in when you get born and you find you're a member of the royal family. And I believe you need a very high level of intelligence to be able to adapt to that, and I'm not sure Harry has the intellectual capacity required, so he has not adapted well to being what he is, which is a member of this unique family. To go back to you, Richard, do you think it would be better for him if he got out of Meghan's clutches?
100%. I mean, I do feel sorry for him. I've been in relationships like that myself. I have strongly codependent tendencies myself. It couldn't be an overnight thing where he just suddenly up and leaves, comes back to the UK and he'll be fine. No, if he did that, he would probably get very, very mentally sick, anxious and depressed. I would think he would go into a kind of prolonged grief. So he's got to go to therapy. He's got to metabolize the original trauma. He needs to go and talk to somebody sincerely about how he feels about his mum, how he wants to save his mum, how he feels sad that he couldn't protect her, how he's projected his mother onto Meghan and he now wants to protect Meghan. And because what we see with him, as I agree with Raj, and actually I would say, I'd go a step further. Being born into the royal family is a form of abuse. How do we know? Where is the evidence of abuse? Harry splits everything. He's got this PTSD mode of thinking, which is called splitting, which everything is black and white. Everything is good and bad. There seems to be no shades of grey. There's this weird otherworldly way of speaking, as you just pointed out. How did his lawyers not advise him? Did he really not know what was going to happen?
Well, let's go back to Raj. I could tell you after the chronology of this was the original case where he first went to court and he lost that case. Then there was the first appeal, and at the end of that appeal, the judge, I remember it clearly, he turned to Harry and his lawyers. I'm going to paraphrase him, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was words to this effect. He said, Harry, let me give you a bit of advice. You lost the first case, you've lost this appeal, and you will always lose this case. This is doomed to fail. You must drop this. Why do you think he's so stubborn, Raj, that he refused to listen to that? Because when he said, nobody told me I was doomed to fail, that is not true. The appeal court judge told him that.
Well, being born into privilege means you find it very difficult to understand that sometimes the world will not be as you want it to be. And sometimes the world will withhold stuff from you and not give you stuff. You're not used to that position. So, you know, it's a bit of a wake-up call very late in his life. But let's go back to the Meghan thing, because this is something that people are putting a lot of store on. So when Meghan met him, right, he was part of the royal family, and maybe part of the attraction was all the trappings that came with that, okay? Now he's not part of the royal family. So that's a major minus factor in terms of possibly what drew her to him, okay? The acid test of a relationship, all relationships go through a honeymoon period where everyone's lovey-dovey and nice to each other. The acid test is when you face difficulty. And now Meghan's got to look after him. And I just don't know how easy it is to look after Harry in terms of, how easy is it to look after him when he's like this?
And he does, I think he does have to be looked after almost like a child. Can I ask you, Richard, I'm going to have to go in a second, but fascinating to talk to both of you, and thank you so much for coming on. Why is it that the Prince Harry doesn't seem to be able to accept the magnitude of what he's done to the royal family? He actually had the temerity to say, I can forgive the royal family, I can forgive them, I want a reconciliation, but my dad doesn't talk to me, etc., etc. Well, you know, he doesn't seem to understand that calling them a bunch of racists, writing a book revealing their innermost intimate secrets, and indeed giving an interview to Oprah Winfrey, watched by millions of people all over the world, dissing them to kingdom come. He doesn't seem to think that adds up to very much. I can forgive them. Why can't they forgive them? Why can't he understand that what he's done is utterly unforgivable, which is mainly why his dad doesn't talk to him anymore?
I really think he's trapped behind this sort of shield wall defense of everything that we do because we are victims is righteous and good, and everything that everybody does that's against us makes them bad. And it's probably it's one of the worst things I've seen him do, is to attack the royal family's reputation like that and then turn around from this high-handed position and say, I can forgive them. Mate, you're not in a position to be forgiven. You should be on your knees begging for forgiveness, because it was really awful what he involved himself in. So I really think we should be looking at him from the point of view of somebody who is not in charge of their full mental faculties. He really needs help. I mean that. I'm not being mean-spirited. I really sincerely hope he gets help.
That's what I was thinking. Last question to you, Richard, then I'll come back to you for a last point, Raj. You've got to answer this like basically with one word, because I haven't got much time left. Is Meghan Markle a narcissist?
In my view, highly likely, yes.
Raj, what do you make of Meghan Markle? Is she the person that has led Harry to this pretty pass?
Well, there's all sorts of theories, but one other quick point I want to make is that Harry's only position in the world in terms of getting media attention is to be negative about the royal family. Yeah. No one's going to film him being positive. So the only way he can make a living, right, is by being negative, and so he doesn't seem to understand. You've got to find another way of making a living, right? Yeah. That's another part of the task, coping with loss. Move on, do something else with your life, do something productive. Yeah. The man has talents, and so do something with them. Don't just complain about the world not giving you what you deserve, which is not a great coping position.
Well said, Raj. Well, listen, guys, great to talk to both of you. Thank you so much. That was fascinating. That's Dr. Raj Basu, consultant psychiatrist, TV psychiatrist, a broadcaster, and Richard Grannon, psychologist and narcissism expert. Your thoughts, 0344 499 1000. That was Harry on the couch. Fascinating stuff, I thought. When we come back, your calls, your messages, your WhatsApp voice notes. So lots still to come. The rest of the show is all yours. Stay where you are.
Worries us in Reform UK is that we've got 4.5 years left of this Labour government. What damage are they going to do? I mean, we clearly are on the move. We're on the march, and the country is ready for us. I've got no doubt about that.
No question.
This country is going turquoise. We've already seen that with the council elections and this historic win in Runcorn and Helsby. But the point is, how much time have we got to sort of save the country? And that sounds, I know that sounds so dramatic. It's so real.
It is.
And what's happened now with this Indian deal?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. As I said, we're going to go to the phones. I'm going to read some messages. So let's first of all go to the phones, talk to Chris in Cambridgeshire. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Kev. Prince Harry. Yeah. Look, he's gone on a time or two about his dabbling in drugs over the years. I can't help looking and wondering whether he's suffering some withdrawal.
Well, I think also, Chris. Let's not. I think he still smokes dope. He loves to smoke.
Well,
grass.
in other words, yes. In other words, the effects. He's getting the depression, the paranoia, some of those things that go along with it.
It could be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's pretty much made it clear that he has been in the past a fairly enthusiastic illegal drug taker, cannabis, cocaine, magic mushrooms. Now, I don't know how many or how much of all that stuff he took, but if you take a lot of any of these kind of drugs, they do have a mental effect. There's no doubt about that.
Small amounts over a long period of time can have a similar effect. And if she's feeding him with various tidbits, shall we say, that feed his paranoia and his depression, his need for comfort, etc., it's just going to make him worse.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I don't know what the cause... Well, I've got theories about what the cause of his despair and his paranoia is, but I watched that full interview and I thought, I am looking here at a man with psychiatric problems.
I totally agree. And I think that's a lot, I think it's behind a lot of that.
Yeah, totally.
I think there is a similar... This could be a root of some of it.
Well, you know what, Chris? If anybody offers you drugs, you know what you've got to do?
Yeah.
Just say no.
That's right. Hey, I'll put it this way. I've never touched anything like it in my entire life.
Well, that's very wise of you, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't know how much dope he does smoke, but it has been linked to psychiatric problems, to depression, to paranoia, etc. And he certainly that was a man.
He's showing all of those effects.
He is so paranoid, isn't he?
Yeah.
And did you agree with me? Just palpably sad and lost.
Yeah. But the whole point is this. He's lost all sense of common sense.
Yeah. Yes, he has. I mean,
which is that sort of thing that it'll affect.
Everything was a conspiracy theory,
exactly.
And so many people
loves him. Yeah. Everybody hates him.
Everybody hates him. Everybody's out to get him. They want him.
Garden and eat worms.
They want him dead and all this kind of stuff. And as many people said afterwards, that he has lost all touch with the reality. He does need help, and I hope he gets it. As I say, I veer between having contempt for him and having fury about him to feeling sorry for him, between that and feeling sorry for him, because I really do think that he is depressed because he's lost everything. He's chucked everything away and he can't get it back. So it was a sad sight to see. Chris, very good point. Thank you for ringing. That's Chris in Cambridgeshire. Let's go to Debbie in Wigan. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very, very well. What would you like to say?
I'm a second-time caller.
Second-time caller, I like that.
Yeah,
second-time caller. I remember you.
Gorgeous conversation, because I don't have a telly.
Oh, that's right. Good idea. Who wants a telly?
I've actually got two issues, if I'm allowed.
Please.
The first one is this Iranian terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
I think it broke last Saturday.
It did on Saturday. It's when the arrests were made, yes.
And then it was five terrorists, four of whom were Iranian, one unknown. And then it got to 8.
Yeah, then I heard about 8, and then there was talk.
And then 7, one unknown. And I've been trying to find out, Kevin, who is this one unknown? Why is the nationality of the one unknown not being specified?
I've got a feeling, Debbie. I'm not encyclopedic on this. I read most of the stories. I believe that the police arrested the wrong person, someone that they thought was involved but absolutely wasn't. So that person was swiftly released. I believe that's what the story is.
Well, I knew you were the fun talk, Molly.
Well, yeah, don't go to the bank with it. I'm just saying that's what I think. I mean, I think that the numbers, obviously they're very relevant, but they're not at the centre of the story. The centre of the story is, who are these guys? We know that a number of Iranian nationals were arrested all over the country on Saturday. Our questions are, who are they? And on what basis were they in the country? Were they illegal? Were they asylum seekers, or were they here legally? It is now being reported that as these guys, these Iranian nationals, were being arrested around the country, that anti-terrorism police were searching asylum seeker hotels. So there's an indication that they could have been asylum seekers. And that'll play, Debbie, right into our fears about asylum seekers, about migrants, because we don't know anything about them. They arrive here on small boats or however, and put them in hotels. We know nothing about them.
Am I out another rant?
Yes, of course you are.
NHS.
Yep.
I've got a history of colon problems. I've got half a colon, nearly died 10 years ago. Okay. So I've got issues now. Mm-hmm. So initially I had a telephone consultation with a triage nurse, which was 40 minutes and was absolutely superb.
Right.
So then I get referred to a consultant.
Right.
So I get a letter now.
How long ago was that?
3 weeks. But Kevin, can you imagine? We have Wigan, Wrightington, and Lee hospitals,
right?
And you have one number that you can call.
So how long are you expected? Yeah, so you can't get through. Is that right?
No. Well, you're in 10, but a side issue is you've got did not attend. But if somebody's on a phone for 10, 12 people, are they going to hang on for 40 minutes to cancel an appointment? So that's my first point.
Yeah, did not attend. That means that they remove you from the waiting list. Yep.
Well, you've got one number.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that.
Three areas. Yeah. Secondly, so I get this absolutely fabulous triage nurse.
Right.
Then I get a letter from Wigan. Telephone consultation.
Right.
But then the letter that follows says attend 10 minutes before you can take a relative, whatever. And I'm thinking, well, it says telephone consultation. So I phone again on this one number.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, we sent the wrong letter.
Oh God, I know about that. Yeah.
So okay, so it's a telephone consultation, which should have happened last week. So I stayed in 20 to 1, stayed in all afternoon.
Did they ever ring?
Nothing. No.
Yeah. I know about this stuff.
I've got the theory. No.
So how are you? How are you? Where are you at now, Debbie? Because we can't go on forever with this. Where are you at now?
Well, now I'm at where I had to phone again on the Friday to say, where am I now? Am I off the list? Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, the consultant wants to see you face to face. I said, well, it was very nice to be informed as that.
So when are you going to see this consultant? Have you seen?
Well, in the meantime, I've got a private appointment because with my history, I can't afford to mess about.
So you're going to have to pay for it, yeah?
Well, yeah.
So well, these consultants are very hard to get hold of unless you pay to see them. If you get out of the NHS system, the free system, and you pay them, they become mysteriously very available. It's a mess, Debbie. It's an absolute mess. Your story is typical of many thousands, probably millions of people who have to deal with the NHS. I had my own problems, I don't know, what would have been 6, 7, 8 months ago. I went to the NHS. I gave up in about 3 weeks. It was absolutely absolutely pointless. So I wasn't getting anywhere. So I hope you work things out. Keep in touch and phone me again. But I have to move on now. Thank you for ringing. Good to talk. Debbie in Wigan. Let's go to break. When I come back, more calls, more messages, more WhatsApp voice notes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. WhatsApp voice notes. First of all, Dave, he wants to talk about our Iranian friends, those that were arrested on Saturday.
It is time that the British government called a humanitarian crisis in the Channel. And if France neglects to stop these boats coming, then there's a good case they can take France to the Court of Human Rights for the neglect to protect UK citizens.
That's a good point, Dave. Very good point. Now let's go to Judy. She wants to talk about the Indian workers, the visas that will be given under this new trade deal with India. Let's listen to Judy.
I don't know why people are surprised that government shafting the workers, the British workers. They've been doing it for donkey's years. I remember Tony Blair and Cameron, when they had government contracts to dish out, they were giving them to other countries. And their excuse was that we were in the EU and it to be a level playing field. It's funny how Germany and France had no problems with level playing field. They kept all their contracts in-house. Like I say, governments for years have been shafting the workers, and spend and tax Labour are no different.
Good point, Judy. Who was it yesterday? Was it Robert Jenrick said, the Tory Shadow Justice Secretary? He said in Starmer's Britain, British workers come last, and the Labour Party doesn't represent workers anymore. It represents sort of North London Guardian reading dinner party people. A bit like me, except I don't read the Guardian. No, seriously, you know what I mean. These sort of Islington socialist types, upper and middle class, not working class. A couple of messages, interesting. This is from Leonie. She says, amazing and very interesting discussion with Dr. Persaud and Richard Greener, that was, the psychologist. As a mental nurse, this case has interested and disturbed me equally. Thank you for having such thought-provoking and eloquent guests. And I'm going to read the last bit. You are also a legend, Kev. Thanks, Leonie. I only read that so I could get to that last bit. And this is from Kath again on the same subject. Excellent segment with Raj and Richard, balanced and fair. I feel sorry for Harry, very sorry for Harry. I'm sure many of us saw his current plight coming soon after their fleeing from Blighty. No one person can give anybody all they need. Catherine in Cardiff. Really good point, Kath. Very good point. A lot of people make that mistake. Oh, this person is the answer to everything, answer to all my dreams. As Kath says, no one person is going to solve all your problems. Now, let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Carol in Manchester. Hello, Carol.
Oh, good evening, Kevin. Great programme.
Thank you.
With 2K.
Two-tier tax care, yeah.
2K. Two career, that's what it is like me watching him. I'm into politics anyway, in every way, in every form. Been brought up on it. Thank you for my granddad with it. But watching him and in everything that he does, he's probably one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had. And the reason why I say that, I don't care if he makes mistakes and things like that. We all make mistakes and everything. But this man, I am really convinced, and I'm really worried about, because we've still got him for another 4 years. I actually think he really doesn't give, can I say it, a toss. Right, what happens
you can say that,
yeah. in about 4 years or 5 years with what's going on with this country. All he gives a damn is about his own career. And I've never, ever, ever said that about it. Don't matter if he's a Conservative, Labour, and even
I agree with you, Carol.
Liberal.
Yeah.
I really do think this man is really, really dangerous towards our country.
I think he's dangerously incompetent. I don't think he, has malevolent intentions about this country. He's just dangerously useless.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't think he stands. I don't think he stands for anything or believes in anything.
No, he believes in himself.
Yeah. He just staggers, doesn't he, from one day to the next?
Yeah,
I think at the end of every day, he sits down or probably and says, "Oh, I got through that day. I wonder what'll happen tomorrow."
That's dangerous. It's all right for an ordinary person, but if you're a prime minister, that is dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It really is dangerous. And
I think he's dangerously incompetent. I think this government is dangerously incompetent.
Well, it is. But if you've got a leader that behaves like that, and we've had loads of leaders, people say about Boris Johnson, they say about Tony Blair, they say about Liz, who was, whatever, she was so many days, or whatever. This one, I've watched all my life, I've watched them all my life, and this one, I'm really worried about. He has no passion, he has no anything about it.
No, he doesn't, you're right, you're so right.
Being a lawyer, being a lawyer or whatever, I've seen men, I've got a lawyer in my family, I've seen a lawyer or whatever, there's something about him that really
he's a technocratic robot, that's all he is. He doesn't seem to sort of emotionally or humanly connect with anything. He's just you're right, he's just a lawyer, he's an automaton lawyer. I don't think he's up to this job at all. But Carol, I've got to move on, but really good to talk to you. Please call me again, that was great. Carol in Manchester there. Let's go to break. When we come back, a few more of your calls, and then Petri Hoskin will be coming into the studio to let you know what she's got lined up for your entertainment from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. into the small hours. Stick around.
worries us in Reform UK is that we've got 4.5 years left of this Labour government. What damage are they going to do? I mean, we clearly are on the move. We're on the march, and the country is ready for us. I've got no doubt about that.
No question.
This country is going turquoise. We've already seen that with the council elections and this historic win in Runcorn and Helsby. But the point is, how much time have we got to sort of save the country? And that sounds, I know that sounds so dramatic. It's so real.
It is.
And what's happened now with this Indian deal?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A quick last WhatsApp voice note. This is from Anna, and it's about the Indian workers' trade deal. Take it away, Anna.
So what you're saying to me, or rather what that moron in number 10 is saying to me, is the British people pay national insurance, hyped up, and it is us, to allow Indian workers that we don't want here to earn more than us, to line the pockets of big business. Unbelievable. He's not going to last to the end of this year, because my temper is on the edge, as I would imagine are millions of people out there. Enough now.
I think Anna's had enough. Really good WhatsApp voice note, and your deep anger that I can sense there, I think, as you quite rightly say, is matched by many millions of people around this country. We got the verdict on what Britain thinks of Starmer and this lousy Labour government, didn't we, last Thursday night and into Friday, when all of those sensational results came in the local elections, and of course that kind of seismic victory for Reform in Runcorn, overturning a massive 14,000 Labour majority. That's what the people think of this government. They've had enough, and they voted massively against it. So a quick couple of notes here. This is from Sandra in Essex. She says, I'm convinced Starmer wants more and more migrants and now people from India so they can get citizenship and potentially keep him in power. Yeah, make no mistake, a lot of Starmer's efforts over the next couple of years, 2-3 years, will be to enfranchise as many people that he thinks will vote for him as possible. We're talking about 16-year-olds, that kind of stuff. He'll try and twist democracy so that he can retain power. Don't let him do it, folks. And this is from Debbie in Wakefield. She says, hey, I've just had a great idea, Kev. Maybe the people coming from India could be our new West Yorkshire police recruits. Yes, it's Debbie from Wakefield in West bloody Yorkshire. That's where the police force don't let white people apply to be coppers. You cannot be if you're white, you're not allowed currently to apply to be a policeman in West Yorkshire. They think that's diverse. They think that's sort of redressing the balance. Many of us, quite rightly in my view, say that's not diverse, that's racist against white people. Let's quickly go to a last call. Let's talk to Glenn in Andover. Hello, Glenn.
Hi again, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very well. You want to talk about the Indian workers deal? What would you like to say?
Yes, please. Well, I've had a bad day at work. Well, I've left my job now after 10 years.
Have you?
So I haven't had a good day, to be honest.
Why have you left?
Well, I've been treated like rubbish by one of my managers at work, so I thought it's time to call it a day. But when I hear, going back to what we were saying about the Indian workers now, you know, they don't have to pay national insurance, that just kind of winds me up even more, Kevin, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, why do we work really hard? Why should they get this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that is a big problem, the fact that they're not going to pay national insurance and we all have to. But I'm worried about the numbers. I was saying earlier in the show, Glenn, I don't know if you were listening, but you know, even without this deal, was it 2 years ago, 2023, 250,000 Indians came here to live and work. So that was without this deal. Now, this year, with this deal, the chances are it'll be 500,000. Like, you know, this is not racist or anything. This country is kind of full, isn't it?
Kevin, it's not sustainable, is it? We can't carry on like this.
Well, no, we can't. That's exactly it, Glenn. We can't carry on like this. And yet, this government is. What did Keir Starmer say when virtually the entire country voted against him last week? It's time for Labour to go harder and faster, further and harder. I mean, he wants to do more woke left-wing nonsense when the country just voted against it. It's unbelievable.
More damage.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, listen, Glenn, sorry about your job. I'm sure you'll get a new one soon. And thank you very much for calling. Keep in touch. Phone me any old time. Good to talk. Thank you very much, Glenn in Andover. Well, that is about it, although we've got a couple of minutes left. In case I don't get time, thanks very much for watching tonight or listening and tuning in. You've been an amazing audience, and I've been an absolutely average host. But if you want a much better host, she's in the studio now. It's Petri Hoskin. Hi, Petri.
Very kind of you. Hi. Yeah, coming up tonight, we're going to be looking at the increasing tensions between India and Pakistan and why that really matters here. And what we've got to remember is we've got a huge Indian and Pakistani dysphoria in living in this country. And the last time anything like this happened, there were riots. So we have to be mindful.
There's been a lot of tension in the last few weeks in central London in particular. A lot of not quite riots, but lots of very angry demos
and this is
involving
what
Pakistanis and Indians.
The Indian and Pakistanis
they hate each other.
They really do hate each other. I mean, and this has been going on since partition.
1948.
Yeah. So
that's what happens when you put a royal in charge. That was all Mountbatten's fault.